Shalom, 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 shalom. First, I want to give all the praises and the glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah, Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who are leading this word in truth and in spirit and in sincerity. And salutations to all the righteous Hebrew Israelite brothers out there that are teaching this word on the highways and byways and in different streaming platforms in the name of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah, Kwadash. Shalom to the hopeful elect of the house of Israel. So today we're going to talk a little bit about Hannukah because as you know, yesterday was the first day of, well, you may know or may not know, yesterday was the first day of Hannukah. Now, Hannukah comes in on the 25th day of the 9th month of the Hebrew calendar, the lunar calendar. So, you know, you count 25 days from the first day of this lunar month, which would have been, you know, every new month, every new moon is a new Sabbath. And then you count 6 days on, and then 7th day is the rest. So today is the 29th of November, 2021. So Hannukah kind of would have started yesterday evening. That would have been the first day that would have been the 25th day of the 9th month. The month of Kislev, I think they call it, the month of Kislev. Now, Hannukah commemorates the victory of the Maccabees, the Maccabee brothers and the father against King Antiochus IV Epiphany of Syria, right, around 168 BC. And we're going to read up a little about it. Now, the festival that we celebrate is to do with the Jews call it the Feast of Life, but it's really called the Feast of Dedication, because it was about the rededication of the temple after it was profaned by Antiochus and the Greeks and his men when they profaned the temple. And we're going to read about that. We're going to go into it. So the actual Jewish people call it the Festival of Lights, but scriptures refer to it as the Feast of Dedication. And Yahweh Shai himself took part in the Feast of Dedication in the temple. So it's one of the festivals of the Hebrew Israelite calendar year that we would, you know, go to, and it's an 8-day holiday celebration, really, to do with the rededication of the temple. So it's more of 8 days of celebrating. That's why they have the menorah, the menorah candle. Let me just quickly show you. This is what you would normally have, and it's to reference that menorah. If I spell it right. Menorah is E. Always do that. So the menorah is like, as you can see, it will have 9. Let's quickly show you it. So this is how you would kind of commemorate it, celebrate it. You have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, 9. Not the one with the Jewish star. But I don't like to see that one with the star. I'm trying to get one without a star. I don't like to see the one with the star because we're not too sure about the star. Some people call it the Star of David, but we're not 100% sure that is the Star of David, because also we had they call it the Star of Molech, which was one of the gods of, I think, Ammon, that had the Star of Molech, which the wicked Israelites used to worship back in the northern kingdom when they was worshipping all those idol gods. And Molech was one of those gods, and it was called the Star of Molech. So we're not sure. Anyway, so this is, I don't want to go off topic. This is the menorah that represents the Feast of Dedication. So the way how it works, you would take the middle candle to light each candle for every day of the Feast of Dedication, which is the rededication of the temple, which is Hannukah. So you take the middle candle here. It's going up like that. Oops. You take this middle candle and you would use it to light up each candle for each day. So each day would represent one of the 8 days of the celebration for the rededication of the temple. And the reason why is because it represents the oil. When they rededicated the temple, there was a candle in there that was lit and it stayed alight for 8 days. So this is what the menorah represents. Each candle represents 1 day, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But the middle candle is the one that you use to light the other candles. And it was a representation of the oil that was in the candles inside the menorah, inside the temple, has stayed alight for 8 days. And this is why they do it, basically. So, you know, that's what it's that's really what it's all about. Yeah, it's to do with, like I said, it's to do with the rededication of the temple. So it's an 8-day holiday that celebrates the rededication of the temple of Jerusalem after it was retaken by the Maccabees, right? And we're going to quickly read through it from the Greeks in the 2nd century BC, which is around 168 BC. This took place. So this is what this celebration represents. So, like I say, it's an 8-day celebration. It's 8 days that you could celebrate. It's on the 25th day. It comes on the 25th day of the 9th month of the Hebrew calendar. So yesterday was the 25th day. Yesterday's sunset, which was the 28th of November. So from sunset yesterday was the beginning of the 25th day of the month of, I think they call it Kislev, which is the 9th month, which is the 9th month. So that's the 9th month of the Hebrew calendar based on the lunar calendar, right? The new moon calendar. So we're into the 2nd day of the festival. We're into the 2nd day of the Feast of Dedication of the festival for Hannukah. So this will be the 2nd day now, because we've gone into sunset now, which happened around 4 o'clock today in the United Kingdom. So we're gone into the 2nd day of the 8-day celebration. So, you know, for those of you that want to do it, you can do it. You know, you can light a candle for each day to represent each day of the Feast of Dedication. Yesterday was the 1st day. Today's the 2nd day. So, you know, if you want to do it, you can do it. You don't have to have a menorah. I'm just saying that if you've got a menorah at home, fine, you can do it. But you could just light a candle for each day to remind you what we are celebrating. And we're going to talk about what it is that we are celebrating. We're going to go through it in the scriptures here, from what our forefathers went through and what they had to do to win back the temple, Solomon's temple, from the Greeks. So, like I said, this took place around 168 BC, and the Greeks that controlled it was the Seleucid Empire under Antiochus IV Epiphanes. Right? It was under his rulership that they profaned the temple. So, I say again, you know, you can take part in this. You know, we're not telling you, you've got to do this. No. This is not like when I think about like the Day of Atonement or the Passover. This is an 8-day celebration. You can read the scriptures that I'm going to show you, that we're going to go through, and that you could read a bit more into it, you know, in the book of Maccabees, to get a bit more understanding what this is all about. And this goes back to, you know, what we spoke about, because this Feast of Dedication is spoken about inside in the New Testament. Yahushua went to it. Let me quickly show you before we go into the Apocrypha. So in the book of John, to show you that this is, so you'll see the so-called small hats celebrating this. So you'll see them having their fireworks and their parties and their feasts. You're going to see all the small hats, you know, the so-called Jews celebrating Hannukah. You know, even though they're not as we all know, they're not the Jews of the Bible, they're not the Israelites, but you will see these small hats celebrating Hannukah for the next 8 days. All right. You will see it. Just in case you wonder why they're buying up all of this food and where all these fireworks coming from. This is where it's happening. You're going to see the small hats will be out there. They're going to have fireworks displays. They'll have food festivals. They'll have, you know, parties or whatever at their houses and get-togethers and big, you know, it's like their kind of Christmas, the small hats. But it's not a Christmas celebration. You see, the pagans are getting ready to celebrate Christmas, but this is not about Christmas, you know. So let's just quickly go into this. John chapter 10, verse 20. Yeah. We'll go straight to the point. Let's see here. John chapter 10, verse 22. And it was at Jerusalem, the feast of the dedication, and it was winter. This is once again for you to understand that we know that the new moon calendar is the true calendar based on the new moon, right? Because the feast of dedication was at winter, and are we not in winter now? We are in winter now, all right? Get outside, it's frazzle. So it was at Jerusalem that the feast of dedication, which is Hannukah, right? What we call Hannukah, and it was winter. And Yahushua walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. Then came the Jews round about him and said unto him, How long dost thou make us to doubt? If thou be the Messiah, tell us plainly. So this shows you clearly that Yahushua celebrated the Feast of Dedication. He went into Solomon's temple to take part in the Feast of Dedication. So for those of you that keep on saying that, oh, the Apocrypha is not the book, not the word of the Lord, it's not the word of the Most High, it's not the word of Yahushua, it's not the word of the prophets. Well, I'm showing you right here that Yahushua, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, went and took part in the Feast of Dedication. You see? He went to Solomon's temple and he played a part. He wouldn't have gone in there if it was some unholy paganism or some fable story that happened 200 years, you know, roughly 200 years before he did this, walked into the temple. Because this took place, when I say the Maccabees war with Antiochus took place in the 2nd century BC, around 170, 168 BC. And this is now, Yahushua is probably about the age of probably 30 when he's gone into the temple here. So it's roughly 200 years later, and he's taken part in the Feast of Dedication, which, how do we know about it? Through the Apocrypha, through the book of Maccabees. Now, let's go to Maccabees, and let's go to where we want to be, right? First Maccabees. First Maccabees. Okay, let's go to First Maccabees. So this is what led up to the wars that the Maccabees had with the Greeks, with the Seleucid Empire, with Antiochus, which led up to the rededication of the temple, right? Where we get Hannukah from. So let's just go. We don't want to go. Start here. Verse 41. Let's just grab some water before we get going, family. Let's get this going. Okay, so First Maccabees. Right. So this is what leads up to the wars that the Greeks had with the Israelites, the Seleucid Empire, in particular with the Israelites, which in particular with the Maccabeans family themselves, who started this guerrilla warfare against the Greeks. So it says here, moreover, First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his people, wrote to his whole kingdom, that all should be one people. Kind of what you see going on today, right? They're trying to do this new world order. All should be one people. This is what it all goes back to. This new world order stuff, this globalization, this one religion, this one army, this one, you know, political party and so forth. You know, this all one rulership, centralized rulership from one place. It all goes back to the Greeks, to the Antiochus. This is what they tried to do. No different what you see them trying to do now. So when you hear them talking about these lockdowns and the Great Reset and, you know, the vaccination that they wanted to take, you know, that's going to lead you to the mark of the beast. It all goes back to this time here, where Antiochus tried to establish his new world order, this one world rulership, just so you understand. I don't want to go off topic because we're talking about Hannukah. So he says that all should be one people. So this is what he wanted to do to Israel. And everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. All right? So all the heathens agreed to do what Antiochus required of them. Yea, many also of the Israelite consented to his religion, just like what you see today. Many Israelites that consent to Christianity, white Jesus Christ, Catholicism, that consent to Islam, you know, that consent to all of these religions. Those Israelites are here today. And these are those same people that consented to the religion of the Greeks, this new one world order back then under Antiochus, are here today, consenting to white Jesus, consenting to Islam, Buddhism, and all these other religions that Esau has manifested for our people. So, like I said, I don't want to go off topic, but I just want to show you the similarities of what's going on. So it says, yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. And we see this going on today with our people, right? Sacrificing unto idols and profaning the Sabbath. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they should follow the strange laws of the land. No different what Antiochus did back then. They're doing today to our people. No different. Just so you understand, families, there's no new thing under the sun. It says, and he forbid the burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, that they should profane the Sabbath and the festival days. And we always talk about the famine of the word, that's going to happen. That at some point they're going to forbid us from reading the scriptures on the highways and byways, that they're going to outlaw it, or they're going to say you're going to have to sign up to be some part of some government, you know, registered list of preachers for you to preach on the highways and byways. They're going to do it very soon. Trust me, this is coming. The scripture says there's going to be a famine of the word, right? So there's nothing new under the sun. I don't want to go off topic, but as you can see, the same things that Antiochus did back then, the same people, the Edomites that are here today, that rule the world, same people are here today in the reincarnation. So it says, and he forbid the burnt offerings, sacrifice, and drink offerings in the temple, in Solomon's temple. He forbid that. Antiochus forbid the Israelites from doing their daily sacrifices, their burnt offerings to the Most High, their drink offerings to the Most High, to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. He forbidden it, right? He had forbidden it. And that they should profane the Sabbaths and the festival days. So they wanted us to profane our Sabbaths and our high holy days, right? And pollute the sanctuary and the holy people. You see? They knew. And see, back then they knew exactly we are the holy people. Now, when we say that we are the holy people, the elites know who we are. The elites of Esau know that we are the holy people. But your everyday Edomite doesn't know that we are the holy people. But they know something is not right. But the elites know who we are. So, you know, you're going to see them try to do these same things today with, you know, them putting in agent provocateurs in camps amongst us to try to get us to do profane things and things against our beliefs and, you know, all sorts of things. They're going to start trying to tie third parties to us. And I don't want to go off topic, but I say again, there's no new thing under the sun. So they wanted the Israelites to pollute the sanctuary and the holy temple. This is what Antiochus required of us back then. And to set up altars and groves and chapels of idols and sacrifice. See that? Swine's flesh and unclean beast. This is what he wanted Israel to do. Now, this was prophesied in Daniel. You know, when I spoke about this before, and I told you that, and I said I'm going to do a breakdown of Daniel 11, which I am going to do this week. I'll do a full breakdown of Daniel 11 because I've told you before, I know I spoke about this the other day, that Daniel 11 has already happened. The prophecies of Daniel 11 have already taken part. So what you see here going on here with the Greeks and Antiochus and the Israelites was prophesied in the book of Daniel 11. All right. So quickly show you it. And this is where it talks about Antiochus here. It says, and in his estate shall stand up a vile person, right? To whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but shall come in peacefully and obtain the kingdom by flatteries, right? This is Antiochus Epiphanes. And with the arms of a flood shall they be overflown from before him. That flood is the army that he brings in, the Greeks. And shall be broken, yea, also the prince of the covenant. And after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully, for he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people. So this is what's in Daniel's 11 is prophesied about what's going on. Just want to go straight to the precept I want to go to. Hold on, family. I've got to open up my scriptures and I know exactly where the precept is I need to go to. And I spoke about this the other day, so I'm going to go through all of this, right? But I don't want to go through all of it, but I'll just show you the prophecies to do with what happened. So, it says here, for the ships of Chittim, these are the Romans, shall come against him, shall come against Antiochus, all right? Because the Israelites had made a league with the Romans, and that's also in the book of Maccabees, right? They made a league with the Romans, like a agreement with the Romans that if we're attacked by someone, the Romans will come in to defend us, all right? And I'll show you that. That was a letter that was sent between the high priests, I forget which one it was, one of the brothers of the Maccabees that made this league of agreement with the Romans. So I'm going to break down Daniel 11 later on this week. So when it says there, for the ships of Shittim shall come against him, came against Antiochus, therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against who? Against the holy covenant. This is where all this wickedness comes into play, right? Because he had indignation against the children of Israel when he realized who our backers were. I mean, our backer is the Most High. Our people knew that the Most High was our backer, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. But they made a league with the Romans, an agreement with the Romans, to say that they won't trouble anyone that the Romans is getting tributaries from. And also, we know we were giving tributaries to the Romans, and the Romans will come and back us if anyone tried to take us down. All right? So this made Antiochus mad when he found out. The ships of Chittim are the Romans, right? He says, so shall he do, and he shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant, right? And this is when we spoke about here, when it says, yeah, those Israelites that were willing to do and take on these new religions. That's Antiochus, when it says that he has intelligence that with them that they forsake the holy covenant, because he was working with some of our people on the inside to do this profane act in the temple, all right, to desecrate the temple. So it says here, so this is the prophecy. I'm showing you the prophecy of what the Maccabees went through and what Antiochus did, right? Hundreds of years before it happened. Because remember, Daniel was in captivity under the Babylonians then, all right? Around 600 BC, 580, 590 BC. Around that time, he was taken into captivity around 590 BC. And they was in captivity for 70 years, right? So this is the prophecy that Daniel wrote that was going to happen to Israel later on, which we're going through here in the book of Maccabees. So it says, and arms shall stand on his part, and they shall what? And they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. As such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries, right? So the Israelites that went in bed with Antiochus, that made an agreement with him, the wicked Israelites, all right? They were corrupt. So it says, as such as do wickedly against the covenant, shall he corrupt by flatteries. But the people that do know their power shall be strong and do exploits. So who are the people that knew their power? The Maccabees, Matthias and his sons. So this is the prophecy about what the Maccabees were going to go through roughly 300 years, 400 years later. Roughly 400 years later, this is what the Maccabees was going to go through. This is what Hannukah is all about. But what I'm showing you here is the prophecy in the book of Daniel that prophesied about the book of Maccabees. Because the Maccabees happened something like 400 years after the Babylonian captivity, after Daniel wrote these prophecies. So it goes back to what I said last week. The book of Daniel chapter 11, it's all happened. All those prophecies in the book, all the prophecies in the book of Daniel chapter 11 have already been fulfilled. But we will go through the full book of it later this week. So keep tuned. So anyway, so what Daniel prophesies is what you see here. This is how they profane the sanctuary, right? They set up altars and groves and chapels of idols and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts. This is what Antiochus and his men did. What Daniel prophesies about. That they should also leave their children uncircumcised. This is what they wanted us to do. And make their souls abominable with all manner, see that, of uncleanness and profanation. This is what they were forcing on the Israelites. And remember, they were wicked Israelites that made league with Antiochus, that shook his hand and said, yeah, we're going to eat the pork, we're going to do this, we're going to worship your gods. You can set up your idols and your groves inside the temple. And that went into partnership with him. You understand? Those wicked Israelites are here today, masquerading as your pastors and your preachers in your Christian, in your Catholic, Protestant, Seventh-day Adventist, Jehovah Witness, Church of Latter-day Saints, and Black Pentecostal churches. That's where they are today. Just so you understand. They're not gone anywhere. They're here today in the reincarnation. So this is what he was forcing on the Israelites. It says, to the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. Ain't that what the churches want to do? The churches today say to you, forget the laws, commandments, and statutes. They're all being done away with. They're the same people here today in the reincarnation. Believe me when I tell you, those same pastors and preachers and deacons in those churches that are pulling our people in, that are of the house of Israel, are telling you the exact same thing today, to forget the law, because Jesus, right? Jesus died for our sins, so we all can live by grace. So they go into the book of Acts chapter 10 and say, oh, you can eat anything you want, because when Peter saw the blanket with all the food on it, he said, I've never eaten anything unclean, which is clean, and and they say, oh, you can eat anything you want, the book of Acts chapter 10, and they don't understand a single scripture in the book of Acts chapter 10. I don't want to go off point because we're talking about Hannukah, but I'm just trying to show you that they are here today. Everyone's here. The Lord is getting ready, man. All the pieces are being laid out. So anyway, so the Israelites, the wicked Israelites back then, they were working with Antiochus, and they said to the end that they might forget the law. They wanted you to forget the laws, commandments, and statutes, and they want you to change all your ordinances, all your high holy days, and give you something else to worship. So, and whosoever would do not according to the commandment of the king, he said, he should die. And we do talk about, the scripture tells us that in the book of Revelations, that the Lord said that some of us will be thrown into prison, but hold that fast until the end. Could you read it out? Because some of you would die. Well, we're here today as well. We, the prophets and that were back then, the men of Israel that fought against Antiochus, we're here today as well, preaching the word on the highways and byways. Yeah? Revelations chapter 2 verse 10. So this is a prophecy. Yahushua says this. It says, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil, just Esau, the Edomites, shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days, period of time. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. You understand? He that hasn't ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. What's the second death? Of destruction, right? The nuclear war. So I'm just trying to show you that even us, ones that fought against Antiochus back then, are here today as well. Because the Lord says some of us are going to die in this truth before he comes in these last days. Because Esau is going to show his teeth. It tells you, right? Revelations 12 and so forth, right? Don't want to go off topic, but I'm just trying to show you the correlation between then and now. It says, and whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. We believe that Joe Biden is Antiochus Epiphany in the reincarnation today. That's what we believe, that he comes in like Antiochus. We believe that Trump is Nero, Emperor Nero in the reincarnation. And we believe that Biden is Antiochus in the reincarnation. So anyway, he says, and in that self same manner wrote he to his whole kingdom, and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city. And we see that today, right? Our overseers today are our so-called black politicians, you know, whether they're senators or congressmen, whether they're members of parliament in Britain. Those are our overseers today, trying to convince us to do all these things, you know, to try to convince you to take the jab. It says, then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, everyone that forsook the law. And so they committed evils in the land. So many of them were gathered unto Antiochus, and they forsook the law, and they were quite happy to sacrifice pigs in the temple, eat the pork. They was quite happy to desecrate the high holy days and worship idols and set up altars and groves in the temple. They were quite happy to stop circumcising their children. Many of the people were gathered unto them, unto Antiochus, unto the Greeks, to wit, everyone that forsook the law. And so they committed evils in the land. All right? So this is what led up to, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even whatsoever they could flee for succor. And then you had those that had to flee because of what was going on, because of the evils that was happening in the land, because of those wicked Israelites that were joining hand in hand with the Greeks. So then you had the Israelites, the righteous Israelites, that fled into secret places, right? And even wheresoever they could flee for succor, right? Take cover, to hide out. It says, now the 15th day of the month, Keslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of the desolation upon the altar, and builded an idol altars, and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side. And this is the month of Keslu, the 9th month, I believe, is the month of Keslu. All right. So this is where the abominations was going on the 15th day of the month of Keslu, in the 145th year, they set up an abomination of desolation upon the altar and builded idols throughout. So that goes back to what I read earlier. The prophecies that Daniel says. And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall what? And they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. Daniel prophesied that. Came to pass during the times of the Maccabees. It came to pass to fulfillment in the 145th year of Antiochus Epiphanes' rulership. They set up the abomination of the desolation upon the altar, and builded the idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side. I remember I was talking about that the other day, but I said those Christians ain't got a clue what the Bible says, because that Christian pastor was telling us that Daniel chapter 11 was still to be fulfilled. They haven't got a clue, Christians. They ain't got a clue. The Most High is not dealing with them. The Holy Spirit's not dealing with them. So, and they burn incense at the door of their houses and in the streets. All right. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law, so now they're tearing in pieces. So now they're grabbing the scriptures. So how wicked they were. They're grabbing the scriptures and they're tearing it in pieces. So now when they had rent in pieces the books of the law, which they found, they burnt them with fire. And you know they're going to try and do this today. This is why everything's going digital. All books are going digital today. They want to get rid of this, because once they print something, they can't change it. But anything digital, any kind of digital book that you print, you can change it at any point. Any point you can change what's in it. So when you read it one day, it said something. And then when you go into digital book another day, it says something else. After it's had its update, its security updates of patches, just changed what's in the book. But I'm just trying to show you that when it talks about the famine of the word, it's coming again. It's coming again. So this is what Antiochus was doing. So now they were tearing in pieces the books of the law, the scriptures, which they found. They burnt them with fire. That's what these devils did. And whosoever was found with any of the book of the testaments, or with any committed to the law, the king's commandment was that they should be put him to death. And I said again, this is going to happen again. The famine of the word. They're going to outlaw the Bible. They're going to outlaw the scriptures. They're going to somehow demonize the men that preach this word, because they're going to reclassify it in this, what they like to do, the new Christian Testament or the new Christian Bible that includes all this, what they call diversity and inclusion. So it'll include homosexuals will be part of the Bible, or they'll be accepted in the new Bible. Do you know what I'm saying? All these things that they want to accept now, they're not going to allow it, because the Bible says that all those things are abomination. So I'm just showing you that what you saw happen back then is going to happen again. But I don't want to go off topic because we're talking about Hannukah. Anyway, so they said the Ginza should put them to death. All right. Thus did they, by their authority, unto the Israelites every month, to as many as was found in the cities. So it was hunting us and putting us to death. Anyone that was following the law, circumcising your children, trying to do any to commemorate any high holy days, anything to do with the scriptures, it was coming and hunting you and putting you to death. Israel. This is Esau. Now, the 25th day of the month, they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of the Most High. That's what the devils did. They sacrificed on the idol altar on the 25th month, the 25th day of that month. They made a massive sacrifice on the altar to make a point. So, at which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised. You know what I'm saying? They was rounding them up, killing them. And they hanged, so you understand, they hanged the infants about their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that circumcised their children. See? And slew them that had circumcised them. So they were hanging our infants. So when we tell you about Esau and what they was doing to us during the lynchings, hanging our children, hanging our wives, our brothers, our fathers, our grandfathers, they were doing all of that through lynching. They was lynching us. They was hanging us. We tell me this ain't the same people that came back in the reincarnation during the transatlantic slave trade. These are the same people. These are the same Edomites that are here and that are here today. So this is what they did. They hanged our infants about their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them. So this is why I say it's a good thing to commemorate this day. Howbeit, many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. And that's what we are. We are very resolved. So anyway, so let's jump to chapter 2, because I could spend all day on this. So this is when the revolt took place now. The rebellion took place now, all right? This is where the rebellion took place. It says, in those days arose Matthias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Joreb, right? So Matthias, they were from the tribe of Levi, because they was the sons of a priest, right? The son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Joreb from Jerusalem. So the only people that were allowed to be priests, that were priests back in those days, were from the tribe of Levi. So this is how we're able to ascertain that Matthias and the Maccabees were all Levites, right? Him and his sons, because that's where he descended from the sons of priests, right? And from Jerusalem, and they dwelt in Modin. So Matthias is the father, and he had 5 sons: Joanna, called Cadius; Simon, called Thasseus; Judas, who was called Maccabeus. So Judas was the one that was actually given the name Maccabeus, because he was the most militant out of all of the 5 sons, and the most, had the most military skills of guerrilla warfare. So this is where they get the name from. Maccabees came from the son Judas, not from the father Matthias, but from his son Judas, which I believe was one of them. I'm not sure if he was the eldest or the second eldest son, Judas, all right? So that's where the word Maccabeus comes from, which I believe it means hammer, the hammer, because this brother did not ramp. So Eliezer was called Avaram, and Jonathan, whose surname was Aphius. So those are Matthias' 5 sons. And when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, when they saw what was going on, with all of these abominations, idolatry, the abomination that they did on the altar, he said, woe is me, wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary, which is the temple, into the hand of strangers. And these are the actual heathen strangers, the Greeks. Her temple is become as a man without glory. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets. Her young men with the sword of the enemy. So could you imagine? He's witnessing all of this. He's witnessing the young children being hung from trees. He's witnessing the young men being slain and left for dead in the streets. He's witnessing the women being raped and murdered. So when we tell you that these Greeks back then, Antiochus, that came out of Alexander's conquering, these are the same Edomites that took us into slavery from the west coast of Africa. These are the same Edomites that came to America and massacred, murdered, pillaged, and raped, did the exact same thing to the Native American Indian tribes of North, South America, Canada. These are the same people that lynched us during the civil rights. These are the same people that oppressed us and continues to oppress us today and incarcerated us. These are the same people here today in the reincarnation. They're just doing the same things that they did to our people back then, and every other time they had us under their thumb. So it says, her glorious vessels were carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets. Her young men with the sword of the enemy. All right? All that was going on. This is what Hannukah is all about, family. This is what it's all about. It says, what nation has not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? So when we tell you that all of these nations have played a part in our captivity, when we read out Psalms 83, all have become confederate against thee. All these nations have played a part in our destruction at some time, some point in time. They've all played a part, but Esau has been our main and our most vile oppressor, are the Edomites. But she says, what nation has not had a part in her kingdom? The kingdom of heaven, the Israelites, the kingdom of Yasharallah, and gotten of her spoils. It says, all her ornaments are taken away of a free woman. She has become a bond slave. Did we not become a bond slave during the transatlantic trade? But this is talking about the Greeks, though. I'm just trying to show you that nothing changed for us. We have become a bond slave under these people. But this happened under the Greeks under Antiochus Epiphanes, the Seleucid Empire, and also under the Ptolemies. The Ptolemies was down in Egypt, the Seleucid was up in Syria. And we was right in the middle of both of those two empires. And Daniel chapter 11 is about those two empires fighting against each other and fighting over Israel. Just so you understand. Because one was to the north and one was to the south of Israel. It says, and behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. Prophesied in Daniel chapter 11. Can't say it enough. To what end, therefore, shall we live any longer? That's how bad it was for us back then. Then Matthias, which is the father of the 5 sons of Judas, Alphaeus, Simon. Then Matthias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourned very sore. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city of Modin to make them sacrifice. And when many of Israel came unto them, Matthias also and his son came together. So Matthias came unto the king along with these Israelites that was coming because Matthias was coming in pretense. He wasn't coming to sacrifice any others. He was coming to see which of these Israelites actually was going to take part in this and who was going to lead them. So he was coming under cover, pretending that he was part of that shit. It says, then answered the king's officers, which is Antiochus's officers, and said to Matthias, on this wise, thou art a ruler, because he knew that Matthias was big in Israel, right? It was well respected in Israel, well known, well big, Matthias and his 5 sons. It says, thou art a ruler and an honorable and a great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. So they knew that Matthias was a bigwig in Israel as well. It says, now therefore, come thou first and fulfill the king's commandments. So they wanted Matthias to be one of the first men to come and eat the pig, do a sacrifice on the altar, to praise and worship an idol, do all these things that King Antiochus had commanded his men to get them to do in Israel. So he says, now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment. So they called Matthias first, right? Like as all the heathen have done, yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem, so shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards. So they wanted to pay him off as well. So, well, you do this, you eat the pig, you worship idols, you sacrifice on the altar that the king had set up in the temple. You do everything against your laws, commandments, statutes, and you're also going to be rewarded with gold and silver. I don't want to go off point again, but it's the same thing you see with our priests and our pastors in the churches. They are rewarded with the US dollar or the UK pound or the euro. They're rewarded today. So they wanted to pay him off, and they wanted Matthias to commit abominable acts to convince his sons and all those people that looked up to him to do the same thing. Then Matthias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him and fall away everyone from the religion of their fathers and give consent to his commandments, all right? Because he's watching all of these wicked men of Israel falling away, eating the abominable foods, worshipping idols, sacrificing on the king's altars that he set up inside the temple, right? It says, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. So Matthias made it clear. He came up. So it was a time. So he was able now to make that speech in front of all of those that was coming up to do what the king wanted him to do, and in front of all of those that weren't prepared to go against the laws, commandments, and statutes, to go against the Most High. So now he was able to do that speech in front of everyone. So he made it clear. He said, "Yet will I and my sons and my brethren, the men, the kindred of my household, right, walk in the covenant of our fathers." He said, "We're going to walk in the covenants of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai." He said, "God forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion, either on the right hand or on the left." All right. Now, when he had left speaking these words, so when Matthias had finished speaking these words out to his people, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all. So one of the wicked Israelites came up in sight of all of the people, Israelites that were standing there listening to Matthias finishing his speech. There came one of the wicked Jews, right? One of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice, to do what? To sacrifice on the altar, which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment. So now there came another Israelite who thought, in a sense, F you, Matthias, I'm going to do what I want to be in with this idolatrous heathen king Antiochus. I want to do it. I say, I want the gold and the silver that he's offering. So he's come up to sacrifice on the altar that the king Antiochus has set up in the temple in front of all of the people. So, which thing, when Matthias saw, he was inflamed with zeal. So when Matthias saw this wicked Israelite coming up to sacrifice on the altar that Antiochus has set up in the temple, he was inflamed with zeal, Matthias, and his reins trembled. Neither could he forbear to show his anger according to the judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. So Matthias just ran across to the altar that wicked Israelite was going to do the sacrifice on, and he slew him and killed him. He said, also the king's commissioner who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down. So he also killed the king's commissioner that was coming to convince the Israelites and pay them out to turn to these heathenistic ways. He killed the commissioner as well. All right. So now let's go to so this is Matthias now that's leading his guerrilla warfare with his men, because now you're going to see he goes away. He says, thus dealt he zealously for the law of the Most High, as Phoenicius did unto Zambri, the son of Salmon. So now it talks about Matthias is going to go away now. And Matthias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law, which of you will really want to fight for Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai? This is what he's screaming out. But back then he would have been just screaming out, Yahweh. Which of you is zealous for the law and for our Father Yahweh, for the Most High? And maintain the covenant, let him follow me. So Matthias screamed out to them after he killed the commissioner, the king's commissioner, and the wicked Israelite that was going to sacrifice on the altar to convince the other Israelites to do the same, to follow after the heathen ways. Matthias screamed out and cried out and said, which of you is zealous for the laws, commandments, and statutes, and wants to maintain the covenant that was given to our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Let him follow me. That's what he screamed out to them, right? So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city. So they left all of their belongings, all of their what they ever owned, everything, and they fled into the mountains. This is where we get the act of guerrilla warfare. It all comes from what the Maccabees does. This is where guerrilla warfare goes back to them. It goes back to the Maccabees, and also to what's his name, Hannibal the Great. Hannibal the Great, who had the Punic Wars with the Romans, he was also a master of the guerrilla warfares, coming down from the mountains and taking out camps and armies and legions and that. So he might have learned it from Hannibal the Great, because those that was in the Carthaginian Empire, Hannibal, he was an Israelite, just so you understand. But this is where it all comes from, the idea of hiding in the mountains and then coming out from the mountains to fight the soldiers that are in the battlefield and in their camps, and then going back into the mountains. So that's where he fled to prepare to fight this war against Antiochus. So let's get to where we need to go to. We won't get there. We're going to quickly get there, and we're going to finish up there. So this is what all leads up to Hannukah, all right? First Maccabees chapter 4. We start here. Verse 33. Yeah, okay. So it says, cast them down with the sword of them that love thee, and let all those that know thy name praise thee with thanksgiving. All right. So this is after he's defeated the Greeks. This is the final battle that he has against the Greeks before he does the rededication of the temple. It says, so they joined battle, and there was slain of the host of Lysaeus, which is one of Antiochus's generals, about 5,000 men. Even before them were they slain, right? We're going to get there, family. Now, when Lysaeus saw his army put to flight, and the manliness of Judas's soldiers, that's where they get the name Maccabee from, Judas's soldiers. This is one of Matthias's sons, right, who became the leader of the rebellion against the Greeks. So when they saw the manliness of Judas' soldiers and how they were ready either to live or die valiantly, he went into Antiochia and gathered together a company of strangers, and having made his army greater than it was, he proposed to come again into Judea. So Lysaeus went back to get a bigger army to try and take on Judas Maccabee and his soldiers. It says, then said Judas and his brethren, behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. So this is where Hannukah comes from. This is the rededication of the sanctuary, the rededication of the temple. This is what we celebrate. This is what these 8 days of celebration is about. Of Judas Maccabees and his brothers who defeated the Greeks, Antiochus and his armies, to take back Jerusalem, to take back Solomon's temple, and to rededicate the sanctuary. So they've got to cleanse it. That's where it comes from, the Feast of Dedication. It says, upon this, all the hosts assembled themselves together and went up into Mount Zion, right? And when they saw the sanctuary desolate and the altar profaned and the gates burned up and shrubs growing in the courts as in a forest or in one of the mountains, yea, and the priest's chambers pulled down, when they saw how the whole place had been overgrown with shrubs and it was profaned and the gates were burned down and the sanctuary was desolate, it pained them to see that. They rent their clothes, right? That's when they're in mourning. They tear their clothes. When it says they rent their clothes, they tore their clothes and made great lamentations. It struck them hard, and they cast ashes upon their heads. So they were in mourning what they saw, what the Greeks did to the temple before they was able to defeat them in the war to reclaim back Jerusalem and Solomon's temple. And they fell down flat to the ground upon their faces and blew an alarm with the trumpets and cried towards heaven. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So he got certain of his men, of his warriors, to fight against another faction of Antiochus' men while they were cleansing the sanctuary, because it's a lot of work to cleanse the whole sanctuary and to clean up all of the profane stuff, didn't it? The whole place had to be, purified. Again, the whole temple had to be purified. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law, those that fought and stood for the law in Israel, priests of Levites, who cleansed the sanctuary and bear out the defiled stones into an unclean place. This is what the rededication of the sanctuary is, then cleansing the sanctuary, right? And when they had consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profaned, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen, the Greeks, the Edomites, had defiled it. Wherefore they pulled it down. So they pulled down the altar that was in the temple because it had been defiled, had been profaned, because they were sacrificing unclean animals in there, the Greeks. And they laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place until there should come a prophet, because there was no prophets in the land at the time. There were no kings and there was no prophets, all right? Until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with them. A serious thing, boy. So then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar. That's why it's called the rededication of the temple, because they rededicated with a new altar to sacrifice on, right? To do the daily sacrifice, the burnt offerings, right? To commemorate the high holy days. So they took whole stones according to the law, because the old stones, the original stones, were profaned, right? Were because the Greeks had sacrificed unclean animals on it, and pigs and all sorts of unclean animals. So they took those up and put them in somewhere safe, put them away, took them out of the place. And that's why they said they want to wait to know what to do with their stones, but they won't discard them totally until a new prophet turns up to tell them what to do with the old stones. So in the meanwhile, they went and took 2 whole new stones to put on the altar in the temple, according to the law of Moses, right? Or the law of the Most High that he gave to Moses, and built a new altar according to the former. So they built a new altar according to how the former one was built, but this was new stones. This is why it's called the rededication of the temple, the cleaning, the new altar, and the sacrifice. And they made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hallowed, made it sacred again. They hallowed the courts. That's what our brothers did. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlesticks and the altar of burnt offerings and of incense and the table. And upon the altar they burnt incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlesticks they lighted, and they might have light, that they might have light in the temple. So they lit the candlesticks was in there. Furthermore, they set up loaves upon the table and spread out the veils and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now on the 25th and 20th day of the 9th month, which was last night, that was the 25th day of the 9th month, which is the month of Keslu. Yeah, it is the month of Keslu, which was last night. That was the 25th day, which is called the month of Keslu. In the 148th year, they rose up between times in the morning, because the temple was profaned exactly on the same day, on the 25th day of the 9th month, the year before. So it took them literally 12 months to take down those Greeks and to re-sanctify and hallow the temple and to rededicate the temple back to the Most High. It literally took them exactly 12 months, because Antiochus did those profane sacrifices on the 25th day of the 9th month of the year before. And they offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of the burnt offerings which they had made. You see? So now they sacrificed clean animals to the Most High, rededicating the temple, the altar. It's been hallowed, been cleansed and cleaned. They rededicated it to the Most High, Solomon's temple. It says, look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it, even in that it was dedicated with songs. Right? So they looked at what time and day the heathens did it. So they rededicated the temple on the exact same day that it was profaned. That's why it was did on the 25th day of the 9th month, because it was profaned by Antiochus and the Greeks and the Edomites on the 25th day of the 9th month of the year before the Maccabees, Matthias and his sons took down the Greeks. So it says, look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it, even in that it was dedicated with songs and cisterns and harps and cymbals. That's why I say it's a time of celebration. You know, have a big feast, eat food, read Psalms, read the book of Maccabees, you know, get to understand the story of the Maccabees, the brothers, you know, read, you know, take the time and go through it, and, you know, and spend the next 8 days celebrating and giving praises to Yahweh Shimi Hawashai, and celebrate. It's a time of celebration for us as a people. All right. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping, there you go, and praising the Most High of heaven, Yahweh Shimi Hawashai, who had given them good success, because they understood that their success came through the powers of the Most High. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days. It's an 8-day celebration. The first day was yesterday. And offered burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. Beautiful, beautiful story, boy. They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold and with shields, and the gates and the chambers they renewed, and hang doors upon them. All praise to Yahweh. I love this story, boy. Thus was there very great gladness amongst the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. And the reproach of the heathen are going to be put away again. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their seasons from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day, which is the 25th day of the month of Cassilus, with what? With mirth and gladness, with laughter, happiness, celebration, and gladness. That's why we celebrate this Hannukah. This is what it's about. They made it a day. That's why Yahushua celebrated it, because it was in the Apocrypha. He knew about it. He understood about it. And that's why he went into the temple and played a part in it and celebrated it when he was alive. Because the Maccabees came and they said, we're going to make this from year to year, from season, that we should work, that the days of the dedication, which is the rededication of the temple, of the altar, should be kept in their seasons from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month, Caslu, with mirth and gladness. So this is what Hannukah is all about. You can read Maccabees chapter 1. I mean, first Maccabees book all through, and and it's beautiful, the stories of the Maccabees and the things that they went through and that kind of thing. You get a little bit more understanding, but that is what Hannukah is about. So if you want to take part in Hannukah, today is the second day. It's another 7 days to go, as I say. So, I'm not saying you have to. I'm just letting you know this is what it's about. So if you see those small hats running around town, filling up their trolleys with gifts and this and presents and foods and wines, whatever, it's because they're getting ready to celebrate our feast of dedication, as every other thing that they stole from us. So that is what Hannukah is all about, for those of you that don't know or didn't know, right? Just so you know. So I pray you were edified by today's edification. As I said, Hannukah, the feast of the dedication. Like I said, feel free to read First Maccabees, the stories about the Maccabees, and get a little more understanding yourself and that, so forth. Feel free to take part in Hannukah. We're in the second day of Hannukah, another 7 days more to go, as such. And like I said, I just pray that you're edified by today's edification. And it's a celebration of mirth and gladness. It's a time when we as Israelites defeated the enemy until the Romans turned up. So on that note, I want to give all the praises and the glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, who are leading this word in truth and spirit and sincerity. And salutations to all the righteous Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters that are out there. Keep your faith, keep your strength. All praises. Shalom, 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 family. All praises. All praises.